to President Lindsay as he shares college updates and events that are going on campus. President Lindsay, over to you.
Thanks, Sydney. I certainly like being referred to as the man of the hour. We'll see if we live up to that reputation. It's great to see everyone. Glad that you all could join us tonight. Here in Elmira, it's going to dip down to the teens. So hopefully you're somewhere else that it might be a little bit warmer. So I'm going to share several updates and some recent news from the college. And then I think we're going to have someone else tell you about some developments on our website. And then we're going to open it up for a little bit of Q&A. So first, you may be aware that the college has developed a strategic plan, and that process started several years ago, really pre-pandemic, and it was because we saw things changing in higher education. You know that recruiting students is becoming more challenging. The number of students in the Northeast in particular, at least of traditional college age, are dropping. And that means that we had to do some changes and be more effective in our outreach to students and really think about the role and purposes of Elmira College. So a plan was developed that really provided a bridge from our traditional programs to ones that emphasize three things. One is the liberal arts, which is the core of everything we do, but taking that liberal arts background and coupling it with professional skills and hands-on learning. And that was the thing that was going to appeal to students today. Typically, we hear from students that they're looking for a clear pathway towards a career. We certainly sell the experience on the Elmira College campus, but they want to know what happens after I graduate from Elmira College. How successful are your alumni? Can I see a clear pathway towards whatever the goal is? And so we developed that plan. At about the same time, we negotiated a settlement with a national bank that we owed quite a bit of money to. And they were willing to take what's called a haircut, which means we only paid them about, in this case, it was 15 cents on the dollar. And that allowed us to retire a lot of debt that the institution had been carrying for about a dozen years. So that was a major effort and helped put us in a good position for looking towards the future and developing this strategic plan. But we did realize that we had to fund that plan. And one of the ways we discovered that that could be done is through borrowing from the school's endowment. Now, you may know that a number of private colleges have what's called endowment funds, and those are used to help defray some of the costs. Usually the endowment does not pay for a large fraction of the operating budget, and we're no exception to that. So if you looked at our revenue, I would say that it's approximately 87% of our revenue is derived from tuition, room and board, and then the remaining comes from endowment that we draw down from our investments every year, and then also from contributions from folks like you. That's what makes up the difference of a true cost of the education. And we discovered that rather than doing a normal drawdown each year from endowment, that there was the possibility of taking a larger chunk of the endowment up front, about a quarter of it, and using that to fund our 5-year strategic plan. Now, one doesn't do that automatically. And fortunately, the state of New York has some safeguards in place so that presidents like me don't abscond to Mexico with all the funds. They want to make sure that there is a legitimate plan in place for borrowing more than the normal amount from one's endowment. And so over the past 2 years, we put together a fairly extensive strategic plan, and we submitted it to the Charities Bureau of the state in Albany. And the Charities Bureau is in charge of overseeing nonprofit hospitals, college and universities in the state. And what we were expected to do was to show them a credible and legitimate plan. Now, before I give the specifics, you may wonder, why should the state have anything to say about private endowment funds that were contributed to Elmira College? Shouldn't we just be free to use them the way that we think they should be disposed? And the answer is that the state views all endowments for all institutions in the state as belonging to the people of the state of New York. So they want to ensure that we're good stewards of that money. And if we're not good stewards, they would not approve the plan. And they would simply say, well, if you happen to go under, what we'll do is take your endowment funds and redistribute it to other like institutions in the state. So over the last 2 years, we've been going through a very arduous process. We made application to the Charities Bureau and developed an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, a very extensive petition. And we found out just several months ago that the Charities Bureau approved of our plan, was not going to stand in the way at all, said it got the thumbs up. And so we now have permission, and just yesterday submitted it to the court here in Chemung County. And that's the process we need to go through. The main thing the court looks for is there any opposition to this petition? And the main opposition would come from the Charities Bureau from the state. And we now have a written document saying that they gave the thumbs up to our plan. So I am really delighted to say that it was submitted to the court, as I said, just yesterday, January 31st, and we're expecting a speedy approval, which means we will then have the ability to draw down from our endowment over the next 5 years. Now, there's a very specific plan for doing that. We can't just do that willy-nilly, and we're not doing the first drawdown or borrowing from the endowment until next academic year, but we're all set up to do it. So it will really bridge Elmira College to the future and help us to implement this 5-year plan that I mentioned. So you should be receiving some news about that, but I wanted you to hear about that first. It is good news. I will say that dealing with the Charities Bureau was not an easy process. It was a rather arduous process, but that's by design. That's the way they wanted it, because they don't want every nonprofit in the state to say, hey, that's a great idea. So they really make it a rigorous thing. We had representatives from the Charity Bureau on campus twice during the last 2 years. And if you think I was on my toes and maybe a little nervous, you would be correct. I was, but looks like it all paid off. So that's a piece of very good news for the institution, and really speaks to, I'm sure, some of the questions that this group would have about what about the financial viability of the institution? Well, we got the clean bill of health, and we really have a plan for the next 5 years that will really work, and I believe will make the institution stronger at the end. So I'll touch a little bit more on that later, but up front, I wanted to share that news. So some other things, people have asked about admissions, if there's maybe more questions about whether a higher education is worth it. and there are fewer high school students of traditional age. We're doing quite well with our applications and acceptances. Applications and acceptances are up 34% over last year at this same time. And you want that translated into numbers, that's about 400 more applications than what we had on February 1st of last year. So that's good. That's very good. And most of them have submitted a financial aid form, which is an indicator that they're serious about your institution. Because if you make your parents fill out that form, somebody's got to be serious. So, that's some positive news. Now the admissions office is focused on yield. We have the applications, we have the acceptances, but it's about making sure that we have the number that we need to fill the first year class. And so far, as I say, all the trends are positive. The other side of the enrollment coin is retention. Do you retain your students? Do they stick around? And I'm happy to say that we've had an uptick in our retention rate from fall to winter term. Last year, the overall rate was just about 90% of all students returned for the second term. If you look at first year students, which is a very important indicator as to whether they're having a positive experience, we have about 92% of them returning for winter term as opposed to fall. And I'm heartened by this because the last 3 years, as you know, we've been going through a pandemic, and that made it particularly challenging to engage students and really involve them in campus life. And hats off to our people in student life. They really have made some robust experiences that students are responding positively to. And so we've got an uptick in the retention rate. Our strategic plan also involves new academic programs. I've mentioned a number of academic programs in the past. Most of you are probably aware of our affiliation with LECOM, the Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine, and the Tommy Hilfiger program, the fashion business program. Those are doing very well. I won't dwell on those because I've mentioned them before, but we also have a number of other programs that have just been approved by the New York State Education Department and that we're beginning to promote and advertise. And they all fall under that category of having a liberal arts core and then having professional skills and hands-on experience. So that includes business concentrations in IT management and sports management, 2 new minors in data analytics and forensic science. And then we're moving to put our master's program in education completely online, which will enable us to reach more students and make it much more convenient for those who want to earn a master's degree. So we're really making some progress there. Probably the last meeting in the fall, I mentioned that we have a $1.85 million grant from the US Department of Education, and that was for IT upgrades across campus. And so we have begun to start implementing those upgrades. Specifically, what that means is that every computer lab on campus now has brand new hardware, and students are loving it. And we're also about to put in brand new laser projectors and console computers, lectern computers in every classroom on campus. Then we're going to be doing some things with the IT infrastructure too, for safeguards and to make sure it's operational. So what I'm happy about is the educational experience that students will have in the classroom, in the laboratory, will be that much more enhanced because we have state-of-the-art equipment in all the classrooms. So, and we have the $1.85 million grant. I mean, to date, we've spent approximately $400,000 of that. So there's more to come, and I'll be talking more about what we plan to do in the future. One of the initiatives that we're now going to start to do, now that COVID is over, let's be positive about this, folks, that we're going to start reaching out to alumni and friends of the institution in a number of different ways, and involving you all in planning for the institution's future. So you may have gotten a survey. That was the first part of our endeavor, and that was asking you to weigh in with a SWOT analysis. What do you think the institution's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are? And what do you think the institution needs to improve itself so that in 5 years' time, we have the new Elmira College? So the survey just closed yesterday, so we really haven't had a chance to look at any of those results, but we will be sharing them with you probably in mid-March, after we've had a time to distill and analyze what people said. At that point, we'll reflect back what the advice, what the recommendations are, and give you another opportunity to respond, to say that really resonates with what I think the institution needs, or have you thought about something else? All of this will feed into the next 5-year strategic planning cycle. It's the long-range planning committee on campus that's taking responsibility for this. So your ideas, your thoughts, your recommendations will be folded into the plan. You'll have a chance, as I said, to provide us with feedback, and then the strategic initiatives that will be included in the plan will be presented to the Board of Trustees in June for their approval. And so that's sort of phase one, but we're not just going to be ending things there. I'm also going to be going on the road again. I've been getting kind of antsy with COVID. I've had to stay put on campus for quite a bit. Well, we're going to be doing some traveling. And so we already have a trip planned to North Carolina, where I'm going to be visiting with a number of alum. Yeah, that is absolutely right. They're gonna welcome me with open arms, and I'm really looking forward to you all having warm weather down there. Let's put it that way. So that trip is happening in mid-February. Then there's a tentative trip I have planned to the New York City area. I'll also be traveling over the summer, it looks like, to the New England area. And there could be several other small trips, but it's about getting out, meeting with you all, hearing what you have to say. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to it. We also are asking alum to host some regional events. And there's been a number of successful events recently. I think Albany has the record for the most events. They're going to have their third event coming up that's involving men's ice hockey game and a gathering. And I think they have, Sydney, I don't know, but maybe 40 people signed up to go.
50.
50 people. All right. See, the number keeps growing. So there's also been an event in Rochester. There also was an event associated with a Flyers game in Philadelphia. And so we're looking to work with alumni to create those opportunities for you to mix, to see each other again, and foster those regional outreach. And for those who can't make it to an in-person event, we're going to step it up in terms of virtual events. Now, you might get very excited listening to me here, but this could be kind of same old to many of you. So we're looking at featuring alumni, faculty, and students who would be special speakers for a set of virtual events where you would be able to tune in on Zoom and hear a special presentation. And we're going to focus on different careers and other opportunities so that we can draw on a wider array of alumni. Maybe folks who haven't connected with the institution in years will hear about one of these events and say, hey, I'll tune in and check it out. And hey, maybe I see some people who I remember from my days at Elmira College. So the first one, I believe, is going to happen in early March. We're still trying to nail down the specific date, but you'll be getting information about that. And it will feature Barry Smith, who was the second men's ice hockey coach at Elmira College. He was the one who brought the team to a national championship in 1978. He went on to serve as a coach in professional hockey, and he is a 7-time Stanley Cup winner. So he knows a little bit about hockey. He also knows a little bit about leadership, and he is excited to present what he has to say about leadership in general to the EC community. So stand by to hear more about that later on, and other speakers that we're working to book for you. So that's another way that we're going to be connecting. Last thing I'll mention in terms of connecting with alumni is that we're giving a clean scrub to our on-campus events. We had just over a week and a half ago our 40th annual athletic alumni weekend. And we in the past have had maybe, about a little under 100 people come back to campus for that. We had over 200 this time, and it was really because of the special receptions and opportunities, such as a Friday night gathering at Rye Bar and Restaurant. Some of you may remember that as Horrigan's Restaurant. And the thanks for doing all that arranging largely goes to Sydney Stringham. So she has done a tremendous amount, and the alumni really loved it. And I was ragged at the end of the weekend, but really connected with a lot of people that I haven't met before or haven't seen in a long time. Along those lines, Sydney is also working to make some changes to reunion weekend. And that means that we're going to be featuring some new ideas. One is to have you all have the opportunity to, I would say, re-experience some of Elmira's traditions again. So, that's one of the things that alum always talk to us about and say, those are the things I really remember. I remember the holiday banquet. That meant so much to me. I remember candlelight around the puddle. I remember Mountain Day. I remember singing in front of the president's home, those kinds of things. Well, we are packaging the experience for Alumni Weekend where you have the opportunity to do those things again. There will be a holiday banquet. The holiday will be in late June, but we'll have the holiday banquet. We also will have candlelight again. This candlelight, I understand, Sydney, may involve alcoholic beverages. So, we'll have to check that one out. All right, maybe a little bit. Okay. But anyway, that theme, we really believe is going to help you come back to connect with folks on campus and have some fun. There's also going to be a live band and food trucks, and there will be the opportunity for people to play Term 3 softball. So, which has been something. So, Louise, I expect you to be back and playing Term 3 softball. So that's what's planned in terms of reaching out and connecting with alumni. So I do understand that maybe Angela May is on the call, and she was going to share a little bit about planned giving and what's on our website, and then maybe we'll go to Q&A.
Thanks, Chuck. Good evening, folks. I'm excited to share with you the news of our newly renovated major and planned gifts pages. So for those of you who I haven't met yet, I am Angela May. I am the Director of Development here at EC, and I've been here for about a year and a half now. And I primarily focus on major and planned gifts. So with that, I've worked for the past 4 to 5 months or so to build a platform and pages that will be most beneficial and convenient for you. So we want to ensure that you are provided with the tools and information you need to make your plan gifts for today and for the future. So first, where can you find it, right? Type in elmira.giftlegacy.com to bring you directly to the new major and planned gift pages. So again, that's www.elmira.giftlegacy.com. Or if you prefer, from the homepage, elmira.edu, click on the main menu in the top left corner. There is click on Support Elmira. That'll bring you to all the EC advancement pages. And on the left-hand side, that menu will say major and planned gifts, and you click on that, and that'll take you to this new pages. So I'll share the link in the chat with you later, but for now that we got you there, I encourage you to spend some time exploring all the pages and tools and information that we've provided for you. There's so much to see, so be sure to visit it. So on these pages, though, you'll find information for some of our more popular questions for your major gifts, information on making stock gifts, gifts from your IRA, and more popular questions for the planned gifts, such as sample text or language from the will, for your will. So now some of you may have heard about planned giving, but aren't so familiar with the benefits. So I definitely encourage you to visit the site. There's so much information that can help you get started, so be sure to check it out. Really, the goal of planned giving is to help you plan your estate and charitable giving in a way that benefits you, your family, and your charities of choice. Specifically, Elmira College would be lovely. The planning tools on our website can help you explore the options to find out what works best for you. So with that, there's a few highlights from the new planned giving site, though, that I wanted to highlight for you. First, there's planned giving stories. So where you can read about donors like our Bertie Hoffman, class of 57, or Cheryl Shalish, class of 71, who received tax benefits by making charitable gifts. You can read about their stories on the site and see how that fits for you. You can stay up to date on financial news. Our site provides the latest news on stocks, bonds, and interest rates, and also provides current market quotes for the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500, and so forth. So, and another feature that's my personal favorite is the planned giving calculator. So this is a really cool feature that you can test various planned gift options, such as gift annuities or charitable trusts, and you plug in your assets and properties. Personalized presentations created for you to view immediately or save for later. It's a really fun and unique feature that allows you to explore all the options from the comfort of your home. So be sure to give it a try. I've certainly tested it out myself to see what I could do. So, and lastly, when you visit the site, be sure to request an estate planning guide. The guide is a download that helps you complete the necessary information for your family, estate goals to provide your attorney. Just click on the link and make the request, and I'll be sure to send it over to you. It's free and it's easy. I think that's a good overview of what you can find. There's just so much more to explore on the site, though, so be sure to check it out. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoy exploring it as much as I enjoy making it. But please feel free to give me a call if you'd like to discuss any of the giving options further. Again, I'll drop the link in the chat for you. So thanks.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you for all your hard work on that page. I know it took you a long time. I think we're going to start with the questions that were submitted during registration. So first off, President Lindsay, can you talk about how the college is reacting to the closure of Cazenovia College and other small schools?
Sure. Well, I'll talk specifically about Cazenovia. I had the opportunity to speak with their president about a year and a half ago. And based on the conversation, I recognized that they didn't have a plan going forward, and they had a rather large bond issue that was due. So I kind of knew what was coming, but we really see them as a sister institution. There are a lot of similarities to Elmira College. They've been around for 200 years. So it really is a sad day that Cazenovia will be closing its doors in June. That said, we negotiated what's called a teach out agreement with Cazenovia, which means that we will provide the opportunity for their students to transition to Elmira College to complete their education. The goal is to make things as seamless as possible so that the students can end up with the degree at the cost that they were originally promised. And so we signed that agreement back in November. I think the announcement from Cazenovia came out in December. We, though, are not the only institution with a teach-out agreement. Last time I checked, I think there are over 20 institutions listed on their website that are have a teach-out agreement. We, though, have made things as streamlined as possible. There is a special web page on our EC website that is designed specifically for Cazenovia students. It gives them the information and the links they need, and the guarantee we're making is that we will turn around admissions decisions in 48 hours, and I believe it's a little longer than that for financial aid, but it's basically 3 days. And we want this to be, I'm sure the students are going through uncertainty, and we want this to be, we want them to feel confident that they will be able to complete their education at Elmira. So you could check out that page if you wanted to. And we've already had quite a bit of traffic on it, and we already have had some applications. So Cazenovia students are in the pipeline. I'm also part of a consortium of institutions in upstate New York who are having conversations about combining resources, about maybe doing joint degrees and that sort of thing, because we recognize that the landscape of higher education is changing. So while we are confident in our plans for the next 5 years, I don't want to be deaf to other opportunities. So we are in conversation with a number of schools across the state.
Thank you. Just to mention, guys, if you have any questions that you weren't able to submit previously, you can drop them in the chat and we'll get them on queue. The next one for you, you mentioned retention earlier. Can you share what percentage of EC students graduate and some of the things EC is doing to help with retention?
Sure. Well, the benchmark statistics for retention and graduation rates, that's the 6-year graduation rate. And it's 6 years because that's what the US Department of Education asks for. Every institution, look at your cohort of first-year students and then tell us what percent graduate after 6 years. They provide a little extra time for any stragglers. That's why 6 years. So, and in our experience, the number doesn't go up that much. So, so you have a lagging indicator there that looks quite far back at for example, the class entering in 2016 is who we'd be able to report on now. For 2021, the 6-year graduation rate for Elmira was 67.5%. And for 2022, it was 65%. And if you look back further than that, that's generally where we've been, between 65 and 70%. If you want some sort of comparison, the average institution, and this might surprise people, but the average institution in the country has a 6-year graduation rate of 50%. So we're generally 15 to 20% higher than the average. And that's all I have to say about that.
All right, thank you. Next question. If a lump sum is being withdrawn from the endowment fund, will there still be an annual withdrawals for the duration of the 5-year plan? If not, is the fund expected to recuperate the amount of the lump sum during those 5 years? That sounds like a math test question. And it makes me,
It's a bit of a math question. It's also a legal question. And so there's very strict guidelines for doing this. And yes, we will be making a drawdown, the regular drawdown that I mentioned, as well as taking out these lump sums. The lump sums, by the way, come in 6 tranches. So it's not a whole lot all at once. And the payments back into the endowment, don't quote me on this, but I believe they begin in 2027 and therefore a 20-year period. And we set an interest rate that we'll be paying ourselves back. And so we will be able to draw down both amounts. But we're expected, because of the amortization schedule, to replenish all of the money plus the agreed upon interest rate. I did notice earlier some fantastic news, and that's that Justin Galuli's taxi will be at reunion weekend. And if you have not experienced that, you should come and try it out.
absolutely. And if you want to learn more about reunion, you can go to the Elmira College website under the Alumni Events tab. And registration will be released in March. So stay tuned for details on that. Next question for you, President Lindsay, is what would you like to see coming from the Tommy Hilfiger Fashion Business School with the 3 years they're here for the future students?
Yeah, so you may know that there's a special accelerated 3-year program that the school offers, which then gets students out the door and into the work world rather quickly. The program already offers some great learning opportunities. This first cohort of students that we have right now have already been down to New York for 3 events, 3 special events that were designed for them. One of them was a fashion show put on by Tommy Hilfiger, and they got to meet Tommy. My wife's main concern was, what should we wear to that? So fortunately, we weren't able to go, so I didn't have to figure out what to wear. But in a more serious tone, what we're looking for out of the program is for it to serve a greater diversity of students. And so one of the efforts we're going to be doing is having an event next year at the Tommy Hilfiger Art Gallery, which has all of his artifacts and clothing from his 45-year career on display in Hamilton Hall. And we want to have a gala event there where we'll be raising money to support scholarships for students who may not be able to afford an education at Elmira College. And we think that diversity is important. And that's one of the ways that I guess I kind of skipped over a question from before about retention. We're very interested in supporting DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the ways we're doing that is we hired a director of DEI who is really doing a yeoman's effort in inclusion and building bridges and actually enhancing the retention rate of minority students on the Elmira College campus.
Absolutely. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, to put them in the chat. We have one last one right now. You've talked about new undergraduate programs, but is the college looking at any new graduate programs? I hope so, because I need a 3rd master's degree.
We're going to start charging you.
No.
Yes, we are looking at a master's degree in speech pathology, in communication sciences and disorders. We've had a long-standing program in speech and hearing. And The thought is that there is a ready market, a strong market, probably even a more robust market at the graduate level. And the reason is that most undergraduates aren't ready to commit to something like communication sciences and disorders when they're an 18-year-old. And so it tends to be more challenging to recruit at the undergraduate level. But we believe we can do an excellent job at the graduate level. And the fact that we would put a master's degree in place would then give us a reputation that would also help us populate the undergraduate program as well. So that's one of the things that's on the planning board right now. These new programs that I mentioned, they go through a pretty rigorous process of approval, not just by the faculty, not just by the finance folks at the college, but also I mentioned the New York State Education Department. And so once something passes all those hurdles, those hoops, then we put it into the strategic plan and it goes into place. We implement it. So we think we can build on the reputation that we have in communication sciences and disorders. And there was just a white paper that was completed by the head of the program, and our provost, Patricia Ireland, is working with the faculty to get some of the kinks out on that, and then we're going to push it forward to the faculty.
It would help if I was unmuted. That seems to be all of the questions. I want to thank you all for participating. I want to thank Vice President Jen Swain for running the Zoom and shooting me all the questions for President Lindsay. And as a reminder, alumni can help the college beyond making a gift by following us on social media, liking, commenting, and sharing. You're helping us reach a wider variety of people, which is helping build our audience and reaffirm the great choice for the students making decisions to apply to EC. The session was recorded, so this will be posted later. I want to thank you all.
Yeah, can I ask a question real quick?
Oh, Josh, absolutely. We didn't see you.
Yeah, how's it going? Josh, alumni 2012, and then my master's in 2015, and then visiting back and forth with friends. Nonetheless, what's the number of students on campus and attending Meyer College right now? What's the current number?
The current number is about 750. I don't have the exact number.
Let's just call it 750. That's an easy round number. What amount of students are currently active in sports teams, not including clubs, but students that are actively involved in athletics?
About 40% of the student body.
40% of the student body. Okay. With that logic and that margin, you're almost at 50% of the student body. I love to hear about the money and the grant that's been spent on technology and infrastructure that's crucial. It's very important. They did a great job updating classrooms, the new health wing, all that stuff is fantastic. Nonetheless, since I've been on campus, and I've been on campus in the last 6 months, so since 2012, actually even farther back, 2008, not one single thing has been changed or implemented within the athletics department in over a decade. There has been some new gym equipment here and there, but personally, there's no turf field, which had been, that conversation started in 2010, and we still don't have a turf field. On top of that, the basketball gym is exactly the same as when I was a student back in 2008. So that's been a decade plus. The domes, though they're slumping into the ground, that's a multi-million-dollar project to update, renovate. The hockey games are still good. The locker rooms are good. That's fine. I've actually had a suggestion that is an extremely low budget, low cost suggestion to add to the athletic performance on campus for a majority of the students that are there. And I've made this proposal 5 different times, and you're now the new headmaster, and I'd like to make the proposal now. My proposal is to drain the pool, fill it with gravel, and double the size of the current on-campus gym. This would be $5,000 to fill that pool. It would be another $3,000 to cover that pool square footage area in new black mats. And where the current gym is divided by a glass wall. Keep the glass wall there. There's no structural needs to change anything to the building. There's no additions that need to be added on. There's no ventilation, electrical, nothing new needs to be added or changed to the space itself. You literally just need to add weightlifting equipment like squat racks, bigger machines, ellipticals, bikes, and a couple of things. So literally for because I can price it out because I just did an entire remodel of a gym space at a school in Southern Connecticut that I used to teach at. And we did it for under $100,000. I truly believe that you could double the size of your athletic facility offerings to students on campus for less than $100,000. And that would not only include a benefit for the athletes, which is 40% of your student body, but also for the other students as a health promoting concept. Now, spending another $600,000 on computers and computer labs sounds like a great idea, but most of the time, students are walking onto college campuses with their own computers and laptops already in the first place. But one thing that this school has not done in a decade has done anything to add to athletic, any changes that I know of. Besides Meyer Hall, they built a tiny gym in the basement. So I'm curious, is there anything in your future plans besides diversity, besides programs, masters, for athletics? Because I've never heard the conversation at either of my reunions. And this has been a conversation that's happened for a decade now, where not one person has mentioned the word athletics.
So you have a number of ideas there, and
It's one idea: drain the pool and turn that gym, that pool space, which is, I'll promise you right now, no one uses it. No one used it when I was in grad school.
Let me respond to several of those things.
Yeah.
First, I think we ought to be hiring you as a consultant. It sounds like you've been involved in a number of these things. The ideas that you're presenting are actually being discussed on campus. And we haven't had a chance to look at that survey that I mentioned, but I would bet my bottom dollar that there's a number of suggestions and recommendations that relate to athletics. We did add baseball to our sporting lineup back in 2014. So there has been an addition to the sports program. Actually, baseball's been very successful since it was introduced. And also more recently, maybe not a big deal, but an athletics Hall of Fame was just added, which when the alum came back for Athletic Alumni Weekend, they were pretty excited about that. So I think maybe the best thing to do would be, I'd be happy to have an offline conversation with you about more of your ideas.
The nursing program got a new building, new equipment, right? The computer sector got new money, computers, new stuff. All of the classroom buildings got upgrades. Everybody has gotten a physical improvement of some form or fashion. An athletic Hall of Fame sounds nice, but you kind of already have that. It's a big giant hallway with trophies in it. You know what I mean? A baseball team doesn't add to all athletics. It just adds to 14 young men. And then the cost of a coach to coach those young men. So your win ratio on adding a baseball team to cost of a coach and also assistant or graduate assistant doesn't work when you could just do one improvement that goes all of athletics as well as non-athletic students as well. I'm just saying, like, you've done a lot of awesome things so far, but nothing in a decade and a half to further all of athletics as a whole, besides, I think, a new scoreboard in the basketball gym. Plus, if you want some consulting advice, I actually help low-income schools start thriving more. It's just something I do. I do licensing for the government in Washington, D.C. for schools and in need schools. But it's just one of my ideas because I'm an alumni. I've got about a dozen more.
Well, so that's great. Well, I obviously it's you're a great resource, and so that's what I want to say. That I want to tap into that. And it sounds like you want to make an impact on the 5-year plan that I was talking about. So let's connect offline.
Yeah, that sounds good. I've emailed me people and I've gotten ghosted. So thank you for at least taking my question today, Chuck. And thank you so much, Sydney, for running this.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. Have a great night, and I hope everyone's warm.